The distributive property is a method that we use to expand parentheses. When we have expressions inside of parentheses and something outside of the parentheses is being multiplied by it, we use the distributive property to expand that expression out. The distributive property is the reverse of what we call factoring. All right, so if you understand factoring, it's the reverse of the distributive property. So the way the distributive property works is pretty straightforward. You have some expression, and it can be a long expression or a short expression with only two terms like this. And you have some number outside of the parentheses, which is being multiplied by it. So the key here is that this is what's happening between this 10 and, for example, in number 64, between this negative 10 and inside parentheses, the expression 9r plus 9 is we're multiplying negative 10 by that entire expression. All right? So the way the distributive property works is you take what is being multiplied and you on the outside and you multiply it by each term individually, and then you get rid of the parentheses. So the way it works is like this. So this expression becomes negative 10 times 9r plus negative 10 again times 9. All right, so I multiplied negative 10 by 9r, and then I multiplied negative 10 by 9. So each of the terms inside of the parentheses gets multiplied by whatever's on the outside. If there were 3 terms inside of the parentheses, all 3 terms will be multiplied by whatever's on the outside. But in this case, there's only 2 terms. So now I simplify. Negative 10 times 9r is negative 90r. And negative 10 times 9 is negative 90. So this is plus negative 90. And this is essentially like saying negative 90r minus 90. And that is it. So we have essentially expanded this expression using the distributive property. Let's look at another example. Number 65 is a good one because here we have a negative. This negative, anytime you have a negative sign, you can think about it as the constant negative 1. So if you like, you can rewrite this as negative 1 times n minus 8. All right. So when you see that negative sign, this is a number that's telling you, in this case, to do the distributive property. So we have a negative 1, and I'm going to multiply that negative 1 times each of the terms on the inside of my parentheses. So I'm going to have negative 1 times n minus negative 1 times 8. All right, so here you have to be careful with the signs. Okay, so since this is a minus 8, when we multiply by negative 1, it has to stay that way. So this is a minus 1 times 8. That's what we have here, but it's being subtracted. All right, so be careful there. So this is negative 1 times n is just negative n. Then we have negative 1 times 8, that's negative 8. So then this becomes minus negative 8. But of course, we know that minus a negative 8 is the same as plus 8. So this is negative n plus 8. And if you are a particular mathematician type of person, you can rewrite this as 8 minus n. All right, all of these are correct. All right, but this is how the strict mathematician would probably write it as 8 minus n rather than negative n plus 8, but they're the same thing. All right, that's the distributive property. Let's look at another example. Number 66, 9 times the quantity 1 minus 8p. So we're going to multiply 9 times each of the terms inside of the parentheses. So this becomes 9 times 1 minus 9 times 8p. So 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 8p, well, that's just 9 times 8 times p. And so that is 9 times 8 is 72. So this is minus 72p. And that's our answer, 9 minus 72p. All right, number 64, distributive property. So we're going to multiply in side of the parentheses. So 4 times 7 and then 4 times the 3m, and subtract those. So this becomes 4 times 7 minus 4 times 3m. All right? 4 times 7 is 28, minus 4 times 3m is 12m. And that's it. That's the expanded expression. Okay, now, here we have a little bit longer expressions, but we're still going to use the distributive property in the same exact way. So here we have minus 10 being multiplied inside of our parentheses. So let's see how we can deal with that. So if we like, and I would recommend that you do this, you can first start by actually rewriting this in terms of addition, because I think that'll make your life a little easier. So this is 10n plus negative 10 times 3n plus 2. Okay, so what did I just do there? So instead of 10n minus 10, I changed it to 10n plus negative 10. It's the same thing. But now I have it in terms of a negative 10 being multiplied by my quantity inside of the parentheses. So that makes your arithmetic a little bit cleaner. So let's solve it. So we're going to use the distributive property with the negative 10. So this 10n just stays the same. It goes along for the ride. So this is 10n, and then we have negative 10 times 3n. So we can say plus negative 10 times 3n, and then plus negative 10 times 2. So that's plus negative 10 times 2. And now we simplify. So we've got 10n, just going along for the ride here. Negative 10 times 3n is negative 30n. So plus negative 30n is minus 30n. All right? So this is a negative 30n plus negative 30n is the same as minus 30n. Here we have negative 10 times 2, that's negative 20. So plus negative 20 is also the same as minus 20. Now we have one more step here. We're not quite done because we have like terms. We have a 10n minus a 30n. These are like terms. So here we can actually subtract. So 10n minus 30n gives us a negative 20n minus 20. And that is our final answer. Okay, another problem like that, number 69. We have 2 plus 7 times 9n plus 3. Quantity 9n plus 3. So we're going to use a distributive property here. So we're going to multiply the 7 times each of these terms. Notice that the distributive property only applies to the number that's being multiplied by the quantity in the parentheses. This 2, we're not using it in this distributive property step. We're only using the 7. Just like in the previous problem, we only use this negative 10. Okay, so here we're only using the 7 in our distributive property. So the 2 in this case is just going along for the ride. So we've got 2 plus, distributive property says 7 times 9n. So this is 7 times 9n plus 7 times 3. So that's plus 7 times 3. All right, then we keep going. 2 is still going along for the ride for now. So we've got 2 plus 7 times 9n. That is 63n. Plus 7 times 3 is 21. We're almost done, but not quite yet, because again, here we have like terms. The 2 and the 21 can be added together to give us 23. So our final answer is 63n plus 23. All right, that is our final answer. Let's circle that just to make it a little bit clear as we're getting heavy with our steps here, and let's make ourselves a little bit more room. Okay, number 70. So here we have another distributive property. So we're going to distribute the negative 5 inside of our parentheses here. And so this becomes negative 5 times 5b plus negative 5 times 7 plus 8b. So this 8b is going along for the ride. Next, we simplify. Negative 5 times 5b is negative 25b plus negative 5 times 7 is negative 35 plus 8b, still going along for the ride. All right, then we can simplify a little bit further. We can say that this is negative 25b minus 35 plus 8b. And then here, the 8b and the negative 25b are like terms. So if I think negative 25b plus 8b, and I add those together, that gives me a negative 17b. So this becomes negative 17b minus 35, right? And that is our final answer using the distributive property. And the final problem, number 71. So we're going to distribute the negative 7. We're going to multiply it times each of the terms inside of the parentheses. And that gives us a negative 7 times n minus a negative 7 times 9 minus 3. All right, so negative 7 times n is just negative 7n. Negative 7 times 9 is negative 63. So this is minus a negative 63. Okay, negative 7 times 9 is negative 63, and then minus 3. So let's simplify. Negative 7n minus negative 63 is plus 63 minus 3. But then, of course, 63 and the minus 3 are like terms, so 63 minus 3 is 60. So our final answer here is negative 7n plus 60. And that is how we do it, the distributive property.